My name is Daniel Fiverson, and I am an evolutionary astrologer here in Santa Fe. Given the intensity of the chaos and discord in the world around us, how many of you feel what my soulmate Susan is fond of saying, that perhaps we are a little bit overly optimistic in our pre-life planning? Today I'm going to talk about this chaos and discord. We're going to look at the conjunction. Excuse me. George? It's Mercury retrograde. Is it going to work? Good. Today I'm going to talk about this chaos and discord by examining the current upcoming conjunctions of two outer planets, Uranus and Eris, that are part of this challenging equation. In 2016 and 2017, Uranus and Eris will form three exact conjunctions in the sign of Aries. They have been in orb since 2012, and they will remain in orb through 2020. Most of you are probably already familiar with Uranus, but how many of you are familiar with or have even heard of Eris? Oh, great. This is Santa Fe-ish. I should have known that. Eris is astronomically and astrologically the new kid on the block. Only recently discovered in 2005, orbiting outside of Neptune and Pluto, Eris is the largest of the dwarf planets, larger than Ceres, larger than Pluto. And just as a side note, I don't consider Pluto to be dwarf anything. According to mythology, Eris is the daughter of Zeus and Hera. There we go. Of Zeus and Hera, and the brother of Ares, who the Romans named Mars, whom she fought alongside in battle. The Greeks called her the goddess of discord, strife, and chaos. And her most famous story is her responsibility for instigating the Trojan War. She was snubbed from the wedding of the future parents of Achilles, but she showed up anyway. She crashed the party. And she threw the golden apple of discord into the wedding party, which was inscribed to the fairest. And this event caused the judgment of Paris, caused him to choose the face that launched 1,000 ships and burnt the topless towers of Ilium. Homer, in the Iliad, called her the sacker of cities, strife whose wrath is relentless, and the sister of the companion of murderous Ares. The Greek poet Hesiod took a different stance. He wrote, "There is one who you could like if you could understand her. She pushes the shiftless man to work for all his laziness. A man looks at his neighbor who is rich, then he too wants to work. The neighbor envies the neighbor who presses on towards wealth. Such Eris is a friend to mankind." This passage describes Eris in her higher expression, as a force for dynamic change, urging men to better themselves. Personally, I see Eris as the dynamic by which irritation changes the grain of sand into the pearl. The astronomer who first discovered her named her Xena after the fictional character, who used her powers to reconstruct a broken world. The astronomical community, however, objected to this name because it did not conform with the accepted Greco-Roman nomenclature. So she was renamed Eris. But even this episode reflects her irritating nature. Uranus was the original male sky god, with patriarchal, self-serving agenda that allowed him to eat his own children in order to prevent them from deposing him. Like Eris, though, his true archetype is an alter ego. Rick Tarnas has eloquently argued that Uranus is much more accurately reflected in the archetype of Prometheus, who challenged authority in order to liberate mankind and was punished accordingly. Discovered at the time of the American and French revolutions, Uranus is also a relative celestial newcomer, coming 4,000 years late to the party, which considered Saturn to be the outermost limits of our solar system. But Uranus also has rings, and not only that, he rotates on his side, perpendicular to the Earth's ecliptic. Uranus correlates to the unexpected and the subsequent creativity resulting from individuality and the process of liberation. Orbiting beyond Neptune, Eris takes over 500 years to circle the Sun. Her highly elliptical orbit causes her stay in each sign to vary widely. The last transit of Eris through Aries was during the Middle Ages. During those years, Columbus discovered the New World, the conquistadors explored North and South America, Leonardo da Vinci created his masterworks, Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapel, Gutenberg invented the printing press, and tarot cards first appeared in Italy. Also during that time, the Spanish Inquisition and the decimation of the Native American peoples of America because of the diseases carried by the explorers cast long shadows. As Providence would have it, Eris spends her longest time in Aries, approximately 120 years. This transit of Aries began in 1926, and she immediately made 3 conjunctions to Uranus. Lindbergh soloed the Atlantic, Mahatma Gandhi freed India, instigating the disintegration of the British Empire, and Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin. But in Eris's shadow, Adolf Hitler and the Nazis rose to power, and the crash of 1929 plunged the world into a decades-long Great Depression. These are the exact dates for the 3 conjunctions. So the first one is going to be in June. That's the one we're going to look at today. Then in September, when Uranus goes retrograde, and then we will see, actually they're both going to be retrograde, and then we will see the final act coming up in 2017. So this is the chart for the opening act of the celestial drama. There's a lot of information here, and it's more than we can cover today, but I want to cover the highlights with you. Here we have the conjunction, and it's ruled by Mars in Scorpio, which is Pluto's sign. Pluto is the ruler. His domain is the underworld. These are issues that surface. The issues that surface are evolutionary in nature, addressing questions and concerns about the fundamental security of ourselves and of the planet. Uranus is the planet of individuation. Aries is the sign, the archetype of self-actualization and pure, unfiltered instinct. And you've probably noticed some of this energy on the roads in town and in the tone of the current slate of presidential candidates, or hopefuls. From March 24th to July 12th, a grand cross will be formed as Venus and the Sun move through Gemini, completing the open arm of this T-square, which will be in effect most of the year. The T-square involves Neptune opposite Jupiter, and they're both squaring Saturn. The moon will join the party on the Gemini new moon of June the 4th, activating the cross. This energetic matrix sets up strong potentials for evolutionary change to occur. 2 sets of polar opposites representing 4 different elements square off against each other, creating tension and requiring balance. The mutable cross activates the houses of the third, 6th, 9th, and 12th houses. The squares are the crisis of reason and intellect versus imagination and intuition, and truth and reality versus illusion and fiction. This cross blends Mercury's outer expression through Jupiter and Virgo as the collector of data, and his inner expression as the analyst that must filter this incoming data, this incoming flow of information through the Sun and Venus in Gemini. The Gemini left brain must integrate Jupiter's right brain. Neptune, who has no boundaries, must now confront the limitations set by Saturn, while Saturn must contend with the dissolution of his boundaries. Jupiter's principle of expansion must conform to Saturn's rhythmic contractions. Our values and priorities that we are perceiving and projecting and the current events of our lives are under the microscope. A new cycle of dialogue opens as circumstances that seem to threaten our basic survival raise our concerns for how we are consciously protecting and pursuing our core priorities. The beliefs that we hold as a result of what we have been told by those in authority are held up for intense scrutiny. The themes from the past offer us a glimpse of the future, and recent history is as compelling as it is uncertain. Ethnic and racial diversity is under attack all over the world. Wars, famine, disease, terrorism, religious persecution, and political corruption are all responsible for the mass migrations of people in search of a better life. In spite of, or as a result of, continuous military involvement in the Middle East, the region is in near political meltdown. The Western world as well is traumatized by terrorist acts that seem to have no moral compass. The food that we eat, the water that we drink, and the air that we breathe are all under attack by acts of commission and omission. Our food has been chemically contaminated and genetically modified. On the whole, the population is only now becoming aware of the enormity of the degree to which our food has been altered in order to make it more profitable. The result of the deterioration of the quality of the American diet is evidenced by the overwhelming incidence of cancer, heart disease, and diabetes, mostly among Hispanics, Asians, and Native Americans. At the same time, the cost of health care has increased 5 to 7% annually, putting it out of reach of those who need it the most. Government regulatory agencies mandated to safeguard natural resources have become privatized. The oligarchs now make up their own rules and regulations, using whatever means available to cheaply and efficiently extract natural resources wherever they can find them. Federal officials and corporate officers move back and forth as if there was a revolving door between Wall Street and Washington. The financial markets are supported by make-believe money, and financial instruments are constructed with non-existent equities. The markets are again experiencing record highs, punctuated by erratic and potentially critical downside events, paralleling the run-up to the crash of '29. The totality of the amount of assets in play has been able to keep the ball in the air, but to many of us, it is simply a fiduciary juggling act. In the United States, the incidence of gun violence has escalated to a level unprecedented in U.S. history. Law enforcement is losing its legitimacy. Beyond our borders, U.S. military forces are being challenged by BRIC nations in both hemispheres. Foreign state agents compromise high-level U.S. corporate and government networks, helping themselves to classified military, financial, and medical records with alarming alacrity. Even within our own country, personal information, even our internet utterances, are subject to the surveillance of a megalithic digital capability of those who would choose to harvest the data. It's not my intention to add to the litany of fear-mongering that has proliferated the media. There is a law of saturation that predicates the idea that change does not occur until the desire that is causing the same wrong choice over and over again finally reaches its saturation point and must, by definition, precipitate out, necessitating a different, more conscious choice. It is human nature to maintain self-consistency. What is familiar is safe. We hold on to what we know because what is unknown is scary. When the pain becomes greater than the fear, we change. Astrology and Hindu philosophy describe extremely long cycles of evolution. Swami Sri Yukteswar, astrologer and teacher of Paramahansa Yogananda, elaborately described the cycle of the yugas, a 24,000-year cycle that correlates to the precession of the equinoxes. There is evidence on our planet of civilizations that flourished in a golden age long before recorded history. The Great Pyramid, Stonehenge, Göbekli Tepe, Chichen Itza, and Chaco Canyon are all evidence of unexplained advanced technologies. If we stretch out the time frame of the Earth on a scale of a single 24-hour day, we are only aware of the last few minutes of recorded history. The works of Zechariah Sitkin, Eric von Daniken, Marshall Clarfeld, and other researchers has produced hard evidence that what we call the Stone Age was not primitive at all. 5,000 years from now, what will remain of our contemporary culture? Certainly not anything made of paper, wood, glass, plastic, or perhaps even steel. This Uranus-Eris conjunction under a mutable grand cross reflects an open channel for new imaginings and new ideas to spontaneously emerge, and the tensions and necessities to create practical ways of integrating and self-actualizing these new paradigms. All truths will come under close scrutiny. What we believe to be gospel will be revealed as heresy. What we considered heresy will be illuminated as truth. What we are searching for is not just truth, but ultimate truth. Jupiter will open up our understanding and create the space for new perspectives, and Neptune will whisper the knowledge from the ancestors. Have we reached the saturation point where the scales begin to shift? From a certain perspective, the events of our lives, individually and collectively, unfold with exquisite perfection and meaning. Each episode, each consequence is flawless and seamless, arriving at exactly the right time with exactly the right intensity. The law of correspondence states, as above, so below, as below, so above. Our outer world is the mirror of our inner world. Let us all rest assured that we have not all been too overly optimistic in our pre-life planning. And someday there will be nothing left of everything that has twisted my life and grieved it, and filled me so often with such anguish. Someday, with the last exhaustion, peace will come, and the motherly earth will gather me back home. It won't be the end of things, only a way of being born again, a bathing and a slumbering where the old and the withered sink down, where the young and the new begin to breathe. Then, with other thoughts, I will walk along these streets and listen to the streams and see and overhear what the sky says in the evening, over and over and over.